Hello everyone, I'm Keri Murphy. We all know that in order to achieve a great goal or dream in our life, we need to really dedicate ourselves to it. And I have met a woman who has risked a ton and has dedicated herself to achieving such amazing success at such a young age in her life. Her name is Keri Begovic. She's one of America's top plastic surgeons, and I'm sitting right next to her in her Beverly Hills office. Hello, Kat.
How are you, Keri?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk about what you've been through. You are amazing. You're 33 years old, and you have your own private practice in Beverly Hills. I can only imagine what you had to go through up until now to get where you are. So tell me a little bit about that. You graduated from Harvard.
That's right.
You have more goals and accomplishments than I can even begin to list. Did you always know that you wanted to be a doctor?
You know, I wanted to be a doctor for a really long time. One of my mentors when I was a child was my godfather, and he was a neurosurgeon. And it's funny because I remember he had the same last name as myself, and we lived in a relatively small town on the East Coast. And I just remember we would go to, a swim team, be in the grocery store, and people would always come up to my mother thinking that my godfather was my father and say, "Oh my goodness, Mrs. Wong, your husband saved my son's life," or "Your husband saved my mother's life." And I remember that as a child, and I think that was one of the things that really inspired me to go into medicine in the first place.
You didn't always have your own practice. It's relatively new. Tell me what you were doing before that.
I did actually not one, but two surgical training programs. So I actually was a head and neck cancer and reconstructive surgeon. That's where I did my primary training at UCLA, and that took 6 years, where, basically people come in with all different sort of head and neck cancers. You do the cancer removal, and basically the reconstruction where you're taking different parts of the body and filling them in to where there's a need.
You were also working really long hours,
yes.
Right? So I'm still amazed.
Incredible amount of hours.
I'm still amazed. You look amazing, but you barely slept. How did you balance all of that?
It's one of those things where it's so funny because I always watch Grey's Anatomy, and I remember they had this scene where Izzy is on the 3 phones and she's falling asleep, and I was like, oh, that's so me. Or I think in there's this last movie with Get Him to the Greek, where the girlfriend is a doctor, or she's an intern or something, and she's always sleepy, I'm tired, and she stumbles in, and it was funny because my husband and I are oh my god, that was so you.
Yeah.
It's hard to find balance, but I think when you love what you do, you just wake up every day and you're excited to go to work.
You just really had that passion, which I think is very important when it comes to pursuing anything in life. You've got to love it, right?
You have to love it. Because I have a lot of, people approach me and they say, "Oh, I really want to be a doctor, I want to be a surgeon." And then they say, "But I'm not sure." And I tell them, you have to be 100% sure, because it is something where you have to sacrifice a significant portion of your life. I just felt like I pretty much gave my entire youth, to just really, really intensive, training and working. It's not something where you can, be anything less than 100%. You have to be really dedicated.
Do you think being obviously you're a very beautiful woman, Kat. Do you think that was a hindrance to you going through school and getting to where you are? It's tough enough to be a professional woman out there.
No, it is tough.
Never mind being, as we talk, girly girls,
yes,
right?
I'm very girly.
Yeah. So tell me about that. How was that for you?
You know what? I think it's one of those things that has been the greatest challenge in my life. Because there's just so many assumptions and stereotypes associated with being a woman who's really into being a woman,
right.
Who's really, I would literally, be working overnight, 40 hours straight, and still always make sure that I took 5 minutes just to, make sure my hair was pulled back, that I was wearing wearing something that was pulled together, just because I feel you need to be professional, and I also enjoy it. It's one of the things that I really enjoy. I like looking girly and pretty and good. It makes you sort of get through those hard times. But I think that, especially being in very academic institutions like Harvard or UCLA, or in a surgery program where it's extremely male-dominated, it's just, I mean, if I could list the number of, sort of condescending comments. I mean, I've heard, male surgeons say, women have no place in the operating room. People saying, "Oh, don't distract me because I'm going to want to look down your shirt." I mean, an unbelievable amount of things where now when I was, now later on my career where, I feel like I've proven myself, and you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but just put your credentials, put your resume next to mine, and I will challenge you to be, a better, more dedicated surgeon than me. I just let it roll off me because I know who I am, and I it doesn't really get to me. But early on when I was, in high school, in college, and just sort of those ages where you feel a little bit insecure about what your accomplishments are because you're sort of in the process of it, it really, really affected me.
But I really believe that because culture is the way that it is, and there are certain stigmas and stereotypes that in certain fields like medicine for women, or it could be many different things, people do, not only women but men in some circumstances, like a male nurse maybe, they get treated a certain way, and you do have to have a certain belief about yourself and your ability with that passion to get past that, because it's hard.
It is hard, and not only that, but it sort of makes you question yourself, especially I think when you're at a younger age, because you just wonder, is anyone ever going to take me seriously? Like, will it be like this my entire life where I'm always trying to prove myself? And you think, wow, in this day and age, people shouldn't even think about this anymore.
Right.
Like, it should be, I think it's an antiquated thing that you can only be a woman who's either attractive or smart.
Yeah, it's amazing that is actually still in our
It
culture.
really is in our society. In retrospect, the advice that I would have for anyone who has any dreams of anything that's unconventional, or people just telling you that no one does this, because that's what people have been telling me my whole life, is you just somehow have to find it in yourself to really, take it as a challenge almost, and feel like, you almost want to, prove them wrong, or just know that if you know who you are, it doesn't really matter what someone says. A lot of people do drop out of surgery, especially a lot of women do, and it's understandable because it's just really tough to go through all that training.
I think anything or any field that is super competitive, you're always going to have such a huge dropout rate, because you have to have such a conviction and belief within yourself and a passion that is hard to sustain over time if you don't. Right? Whether it's entertainment or
anything,
medicine or any elite, kind of group where they actually have to rise to the top. And, more and more times when I talk to successful people, the passion that has gotten you through, and support and good mentors. And now you're here. You have an office, in Beverly Hills. We were talking about before how plastics does kind of get a bad rap. And I think in LA, because it's just, you see the bad, after effects, and of all the stars that have gone a little too far. But like we were saying, for good plastic, you don't want to even know that you had anything done, right?
I think the thing that's confusing also for a lot of people is there's people who are, affiliated with, the plastic, like who went through formal plastic surgery training in an academic institution, and it's not all cosmetics. Like, that's the thing that people don't realize. Plastic surgery actually was created based on like an ideal, like you make people whole. Plastic surgery bred out of, war, where people had open wounds, things that couldn't be fixed. They were able to sort of make people normal again, make people whole again. And that's the essence of what plastic surgeons who are trained in an academic institution sort of feel. There's this whole other cosmetic surgery world where I think you can be any sort of medical practitioner. You do a certain number of cases, and you submit some sort of exam, and those people don't necessarily have to go through all the same training and hold themselves to the same standard. So, I honestly feel like any plastic surgeon who is trained through an academic training program sort of has that feeling in them that they want to do what's right for the patient. That the whole point of it is to make someone whole. And people always come to me, and I always get phone calls like, oh my god, fix my nose. I think about my nose all the time. And I always feel like the whole goal of plastic surgery is to make it so people don't have to think about something that's holding them back or making them feel insecure. Like, that's what it should be about, making it so one part of their body that someone is fixated on just it's something, it becomes a non-issue. So who they are as a person, their real self, the person that they want to shine through as can come through.
But people would say, just to be, devil's advocate, that, well, they just have a low self-esteem, they don't feel good about themselves, so they have to go and get a new nose, new boobs, new face, whatever.
Right.
What do you say to that?
I mean, there are people who are like that, but I think that if you are an experienced practitioner and you just have a good sense of people, those aren't the people that you want to be taken care of. I mean, you can never fix the inside from fixing the outside.
Just made me think of Michael Jackson, like trying to fix the inside with the outside, and what a great example of someone who just couldn't fix themselves enough, right?
And there's a lot of people like that, and I think that, from experience or just being a good reader of people, those are the people that, I would never operate on someone like.
Well, I also know that you have a huge heart for, helping other people. That's why you're a surgeon in the first place,
right.
And you have a huge heart for young women. Tell me what you would want to say to a young girl that's coming up that either wants to be a surgeon or doesn't like what she looks like. What would you say to her?
Well, I guess they're two separate questions. For a young girl who wants to go into surgery, I would tell them that, definitely, every woman is just as strong, if not stronger than, any man out there. There have been studies that show that women have an inordinate ability to, overcome great obstacles in their life or deal with things or deal with pain even more than men. So I would tell them that, just because there aren't a lot of female surgeons out there or they don't have a lot of examples of good role models or mentors, to not get discouraged and just to, have confidence in themselves to really forge their way. And I guess the other part of your question is, if someone doesn't like the way they look,
at a young age, or at any age, yeah.
I think that, one, they should just investigate first the reasons why they're unhappy. Is it really just one little part of themselves physically or anatomically that they don't like? Or, is it something deeper that they need to actually spend more time or self-reflection on? Because I think that separating the two is really important. And I think that everyone is different and everyone looks different. So I always tell people, because, sometimes women will approach me and say, what should I do? What should I fix? And I tell them, I said, well, what bothers you? Because really, if someone is happy and confident, no matter how they look, there's really nothing to fix.
Right. Oh, isn't that true? So true.
Yeah. So I always say, well, is there something wrong that you want to fix? And she'll, usually they'll say, oh, my friend keeps telling me I should, fix my nose or fix my ears or something. And I said, it's you, what bothers you. And if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't matter. Why would you fix it? Because, otherwise God would have made all of us look exactly alike.
Right.
And so I think it's the differences in us that make everyone interesting or beautiful, and, there's no necessary ideal.
What is something that we can do without going under the knife to make us look more youthful and fabulous? What's like your couple top beauty tips?
Well, first of all, honestly, I just have to say that smoking, for the two things that cause the most aging, smoking and sun. So bottom line, really, people, so the first thing is, because people always ask me for advice on skin or anything like that, I tell them, if you smoke, quit smoking immediately. People age, I would say, at least, 2 or 3 times faster. People will look 20 years terrible for
I
your
have
skin.
seen that, though.
It's terrible. And then the second thing is sun, which it's hard, in Southern California, but, people, sunscreen is so essential. And not only that, but, I've seen a lot of skin cancers, too. And so, people don't realize it until it's too late when it comes to sun, when they have sun damage, things like that. So sunscreen, stop smoking. And then just basic things, about being healthy, eating well, exercising, taking good care of yourself, because that reflects upon, your skin and your overall, your overall appearance. And then I think for anyone who doesn't use moisturizer, because I always just assume that everyone uses moisturizer, but hydrating your skin and using
and probably drinking water too.
Yeah,
I'm excited because you're gonna be contributing, so we're gonna get some of the products
definitely.
that she
I have
likes.
lots of advice.
So excited to have Kat a part of the site, because you are going to give ladies a lot of good information.
And I love that, because I think for me, there's so many things that have been such a part of my routine for such a long time, I just take it for granted. And it's only until I get questions or really, then I think, wow, I didn't realize, people don't know these things, and a lot of them are really simple and not very expensive. I mean, not everyone has to go rush to plastic surgeon. I mean, that's like the end of the beauty spectrum, but just general tips on health, simple things that people can do in their everyday or over the counter. That's the basics, and then it can just go up the rest of the spectrum of stuff that's more invasive. But
thank you so much. You are
You're
so
welcome.
inspirational. You've accomplished so much. Please make sure you check out Kat's website. What is your website?
it's makeyouperfect.com. It's pretty easy to remember.
That is pretty easy. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.